Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training up here in the high desert. Pretty nippy this morning, cold, so I'm kind of trying to wait for it to warm up. It has been getting warmer as long as the wind doesn't get up. Hi Joker, huh? Say hi Jokers, good boy. So I'm just taking a walk around property. I thought I would yak the screen a little bit in regards to some of the things you're seeing with Buddha. Okay, and you've heard me talking about avoidance and escape training, old standard that we used years ago. We don't use as much, but it's a tool in the tool bag, and having proficiency and understanding how a dog deals with that pressure, and then what dogs could use it and what dogs don't. You see me working with Buddha, that Argentina, Dogo Argentina. That dog is in pity breeds and mastiffs and things. A lot of times are more receptive to avoidance and escape training. And the reason for that is that their whole mental makeup and their whole drive states and everything else, being bred for dog fighting and having that terrier behind them, you know, and the breed lines and all that brings out tenacity, right? It changes the dog's whole perspective in life as far as how he deals with life. That Dogo Argentina is a good example. His brain has a tendency to float into whatever he's into, so his brain just kind of loses the concentration for you and goes into either sniffing smells or going after the dog or whatever it may be. The only way you're going to get through... Joker, get over here. Get over here. He's over there with his hot tail all high. Excuse the... what the hell happened here? I'm not sure what happened. All right, so I'm back in focus. So avoidance and escape training is very valuable when you have this kind of an animal, because you can get through and with a proper conditioning, okay? What I want to talk about, though, is a little bit more about society as a whole, okay? How dog trainers are affected by their accent points and their points of view when they put in the attitude of tackling and dealing with aversives. And we have some trainers that are online. There's one that I can think of right off the top of my head that really his accent points and his whole emphasis is towards that negative side of training, using bonkers and using aversives and using stem collars in an aversive manner. It's not that there isn't value in that. It's the matter that the man has gotten himself into being only about that and stopping. He's not accenting the pure positive side of things using food and conditioning. And you saw me yesterday with Buddha. Realize I've got a philosophy, and this is something that I think is important when you're getting into this stuff. Always too fast, never too slow. So that being the case, you want to set up these conditioning patterns. You want to do things so that the dog has a leg up, and he's already got these conditioning patterns up. And then you respect thresholds and distance away from whatever that stimulus is. You're very aware and cognizant of this when you're using these techniques, because it wouldn't be fair if I make the decision, and this is a problem. Remember what I've told you before, that it's only as good as the tool, the person that's using that tool, okay? Well, these methods are a lot the same. If I make a choice and I go diving in and go way past threshold, and that dog is way up in drive and he's losing his mind, and you start yanking the hell out of him, will you get the job done? Eventually, sure, the dog's going to get a clue, and he's going to end up complying to that, and you'll end up getting trained. But how fair is that to the animal, right? Always too fast, never too slow. So if you do it right, and you do it very methodically, and you set your patterns in, you give the dog some kind of understanding of what you're expecting of them, right? And then you are cognizant and aware of thresholds, okay? And you float your bubble properly, then you're being fair to the animal, and set up a behavior like that right about turn. I'm asking the dog to right away come back into me, and that's important. So we set up those patterns, those behaviors ahead of time, so the dog is aware of it. And then you notice what I did yesterday. There's really no stimulation with that horse. The dog has got a horse at home. He's already had negative behavior with that horse. He could very likely be prone to being stupid and doing something he shouldn't do, where I'd have to do a correction. But I picked, and I really thought it through on what I was going to do with the dog. And most of this I really don't have to think too hard. I've been doing this for so long, I just kind of right away, it's instinctive, right? Another person had a question on one of my my videos, talking about what the heck did he say? He said something that gave me a chance to give a nice reply. Oh, in regards to using instincts versus science. And he was getting into being a little bit anal, and he was going, yeah, I've heard if you frustrate him, you should never go past 10 frustrations and then make sure you give him a bite, because otherwise it's punishment. We're getting into the concept of being scientific and understanding the science of training versus using your instincts and what I call the gut feeling of dog training. It's instinctive for me. I've been doing this since I was a child, and I wanted to harness and grow that. My philosophy is this, and this is my theory in any way, that our society in a general sense praises and lauds and gives credence to things like being a lawyer, being a doctor, because they bring in a lot of high money. And of course, we want to have somebody that's successful in life. Money is what it's all about, right? But in the same regards, our society would be much better served if they learned to understand, to bring out that natural instinct of a child and child development, and harness some of these things like music and my dog training, artistic, being a painter, okay? And those artistic values, that side of your brain that works in that realm of imagination and creativity and instinct, that feeling, that love that you feel, that emotional feeling that you feel when you're doing this. And this is much better harnessed when you're a young child, because nobody's told you no yet, right? And you feel these emotional states of mind when you're a child a lot more than when you're an adult. When you're an adult, these kind of fade away, and you end up working in the intellectual side, because you've got to do your paperwork, and you've got to worry about 2 and 2 adds up to 4, and you're watching your budget, and you're doing all these things that reside in the realm of the math side of things and the intellectual side of things, the science, right? Like I told this gentleman, the science is very important. It's important that you, let me make sure I know where Joker's at. Joker, oh, yay! Good boy, good. All right, get up there, come on, hop, couche. Stick around with me, buddy. Couche, good. So you're much better served in regards to dog training anyway, and understanding that there's 2 sides of your brain, right? One of them is always working with 2 and 2 adds up to 4. That's the intellectual side of your brain, right? That's the front side of your brain. And then in the other side of your brain is imagination, creativity, feeling, right? When I keep mentioning instruments, it's my way of trying to explain this to a customer, is I've honed in on this because I used to play guitar when I was a kid, right? And I was around people that were being developed towards being an artist as far as music and musicians and that kind of thing. I've been around that type of an environment. When you get to a certain point and you stop having to worry about where your fingers are at on the fret of that guitar, and your fingers are just falling there, then you're going to want to try to let your brain start to be working in the back of the brain with that imagination, creativity, and bending that note and getting the sound and the vibrato, right? The feeling. That's what vibrato really means, is feeling, right? And understanding and getting the feel for what you're putting out with your music, right? And when you do that, the good musicians, the good artists, the ones that really know how to sing or play an instrument, they do it with feeling, and that's the key. Right? So dog training is really no different. So when I tell people you want to learn the science, you want to study the science, understanding classical and operant conditioning and the things that are important in the science of training. But when you go out and work a dog, start learning to forget about that, realize that it's back there for you to use. You're going to use it, but learn to start thinking about working with your animal with feeling, with your gut, instincts. That will carry you a lot farther, and you will be a lot better trainer if you get your head out of that anal side of wanting to worry about 2 and 2 adds up to 4, okay? So that's my little yak session today. Remember, when you go out, I call that the gut feeling of dog training. And I try to pass this on to my customers when I work with them. And I always say to my customers, I've said it for years, if I can get 1 person in 10 to get that feeling and have that instinct when they're working with an animal, I've succeeded in my job. But it's maybe 2-3 people in a 10 will get to that point. Other people are so busy, they just kind of push you off, and they never really get to the passion state where they really start wanting to understand and to feel, right? And remember, every dog is different. So you'll start feeling a Rottie is a Rottie, a Doberman is a Doberman, German Shepherd's a German Shepherd. You start to feel and understand because you start to get experience under your belt. You start to work a multitude of dogs. You will start to understand that these breeds have certain breed characteristics that you can rely on them being like. No dog is ever the same. It's like you and I. We have personalities that there's only one Mark Ferrasci, right? There's only one certain dog. Every dog has a personality, right? And you have to understand. That's why I go through my process of going out with a dog. And my biggest thing is to spend 2 or 3 days getting to know the dog, figuring out where his head's at, figuring out what things I need to work with that individual animal. Every dog is different. And then my philosophy is always too fast, never too slow. Take your time, build up your methodical patterns, get the tools in the tool bag with the animal before you put this stuff on him, like doing the horse or another dog or things I need to do with Buddha. Don't do that until that dog, otherwise you're not being fair. Right? You're not being fair to the animal, and you're taking a big old bully stick and you're beating the shit out of the animal, right? Same thing with stem collar. The stem collar is only as good as the person using it. We have the ability to take that stem collar way down to a very low level and start the conditioning with that to teach the dog to turn that off, give the power to the dog, right? And develop that dog properly, and that tool will be a very worthwhile tool in the future of that dog's training, right? But if you don't use that tool properly, you're only using a big stick and you're using a negative, and you only have a one-dimensional concept with that animal. Remember what I've always said about the stem collar. As far as I'm concerned, a stem collar, electric collar, e-collar, whatever you want to call it, is a three-dimensional tool, but it's how you harness that. I think I might do a seminar on stem collars. I've been doing them for long enough that I can give a very good contextual thing. I've got a whole group of videos on that and talking about them when I had Rocky, and I used Rocky as my demo with that, and we went through a whole program of how I introduced the collar to the dog, the concepts behind it, and getting people to understand. It's all about your education, guys. You can have a bunch of people out there that are negative on this stuff, on the aversives, all that. And I'll give you another one. I'll go ahead and yak a little bit longer here. Society as a whole. I've always been very intrigued by this because it's something that I've had to deal with in the perception of the public, to me, being a trainer, and this whole concept PC political crowd that is so anti with aversives. Remember that a lot of times if we don't do these things that we do and do this power type stuff with the aversive type work, you're going to have a dog that's going to end up spiraling like this Dogo Argentina. Imagine if he didn't have a professional trainer that had the skill that I'm not the best trainer in the world. Believe me, there's a lot of good trainers out there. I need to stop being so braggadocious, right? And start being a little more humble. It's hard for me. I've been doing this, and I only have one thing I'm good at, dog training. You don't hear me talking about other things that I'm good at because I'm no good at a lot of things, okay? But this is something I've been doing since I've been a baby. So if it puts off a lot of people, and I think it does because my numbers are always low, there's other people out there that I look at them online and their numbers are through the roof on the YouTube videos, and I look at them, I say, what are you doing with your dog? All I see you doing is putting your dog on a place. You got a half crate, you tell the dog to go jump on the crate, he goes jump on the crate, and you do a lot of yakking, but I don't see you doing really anything. You're not showing the world really a start of a dog that's really all screwed up, and you finishing the product and the dog growing and maturing and going. I try to do that. I try to use as much as I can to educate you guys so that you learn, you see the transition from the dog when he first starts to the end, and you get to see the raw, okay? You don't see just the finished product and me showing off out there. I'm showing you these things that are in between so that you learn and you grow, that there's a lot of work that goes to finishing that dog. So back to society as a whole. I told Cesar Millan when I was hanging around him 20 years ago, when he was starting, I was trying to do a lot of yakking at him to give him confidence to go out and pursue life in regards to being a Mexican that had came over the border, swam over the river, and he was just like a lot of Spanish Americans that are here now, Mexican Americans, that have worked hard to become citizens in our society. And now Caesar's a citizen, right? But he came over the same way a lot of them have come over, right? And they've become productive parts of our society. And he got lucky, he was at the right place, the right time, and he's a big success. But like I used to tell him back then was, as you start to climb that ladder and you start to go up and you start to get more popularity and more people see you and you start to become more successful, people have a tendency, their human nature in society is pretty sad, that is the farther you get up that ladder and the closer you get to the sun, the more they want to drag you down, okay? And if you look at Caesar as a great example of that he has a lot of people that hate him, okay? But reality is, there's a lot of those dogs that you see on the videos and all that, he's there for a reason. They're the people's last hope. And if he doesn't do some of these aggressive, aversive type of things that he's doing with the dog is going to end up getting put down, okay? And that's the sad part about it. With Buddha as an example, that dog is so large and so much power within him that if you didn't have a professional balancing that out and getting the dog to be a functional part of society and getting him balanced, you would end up having a dog that they would go outside and the dog would yank that person on the ground and drag him across the sidewalk. It happens all the time. So what you're doing is you're helping people and you're giving the dogs more freedom, because if they don't have the training, they don't have this work that ends up getting them to be a stable, well-developed animal with a professional like me, that dog is going to be robbed of freedom. He's going to be stuck in the backyard, because that's what people do. They stick him in the backyard. They can't take him anywhere. They go out and the dog just gets out of control. And with that much power, that dog's going to hurt somebody. He's going to get another dog fight. He's going to maim another dog or whatever it may be. But it's the freedom that we're giving that dog, okay? So keep that in mind when we go to these measures, when we go to these levels, using aversives and doing what we have to do. We're all about trying to save the animal. Okay, that's what it's about. That's what the most important thing is for me, okay, is educating my customers and trying to make sure that I give the dog the freedom with what I'm giving the dog in training. So now I can transfer that to the owner, and now the owner will start taking him out and doing things with the animal, because now the animal can be a functional part of society. You know, over in Europe for years, I'm sure that things are changing a little bit now. We've got all the different things that changed, and the PC crowd and all that. It used to be, and I was really I admired this. I thought this was really cool, that people in their lifestyles over in Germany is a great example. Go with their dogs. They get to go in restaurants. They get to go all kinds of places with those people because they have them in control. And now look at us. We have people that are trying to do this with their dogs they're claiming are service dogs, and that's BS. They're not, and they're not getting. And now I'm starting to see corporates start to do things I like. I'm starting to see signs at Costco saying service dogs only and explaining what that means. It's not an emotional support dog. Just because you think you have... Any dog is an emotional support dog, okay? And a lot of people, you know, they want to say that my dog's an emotional support dog. So no, it's not a service dog. A service dog fulfills a function for that person that has ailments, physical ailments, that he needs that dog to do jobs for him. That's a service dog. That dog belongs in going into restaurants, going into places that he's needed, okay? An emotional service dog is only a pet. Okay, and it irritates me when I get to the world where I used to start. When I started, I had a gentleman that was my boss, worked at Seeing Eye Dogs in San Rafael. Seeing Eye Dogs, that was his introduction to being a professional dog trainer, and he gave me a lot of insight of how they ended up cracking that glass ceiling, because before then they couldn't get their dogs on buses, they couldn't go into restaurants, they weren't allowed anywhere. They had to really work hard to prove this program and to get this to work so that society would accept the Seeing Eye Dog to go anywhere. And nowadays that's just synonymous with a Seeing Eye Dog. And then they start trying to do that with other animals that are service dogs, and the public is taking advantage of it and getting these bootleg certificates online and bullshit and a harness that says he's a service dog, and he's not, okay? So for you corporations, for you stores and stuff, I would look at Stater Brothers is starting to do it too up in our area. They have a sign on the door now. They're starting to put out that attitude that no, your dog is not a service dog just because he's an emotional support dog. A little Chihuahua, a little poodle coming in the cart into the store. What does that dog do for you? Can they do something that's service dog oriented? Sure they could. And then you get corporations like PetSmart or what is, and they're doing that pet quality dog training. I usually try not to mention the business names, but reality and truth is truth. And they start doing little stuff on the side saying, yeah, we can get you a service dog certificate. We just got to teach the dog to pick up the keys, right? That's BS, okay? The really service dogs have to go through a full training program that gives them the demeanor that they should have. And we'll talk about this more as we go along, because it's important that you guys understand this. What a service dog is meant to do, what his functions are, and what you should do as part of society. I always walk up and I say, what does your dog do for you? And I make polite conversation, and then I give them a negative attitude when I find out that the dog is not a service dog and they're full of shit. Excuse my language, but it's reality. And I do that all the time. And then I'll jerk on their chain a little bit. I'll make them feel like a dog doo-doo, and I'll walk away. Okay, because it really irritates the hell out of me that society is allowing this to happen with all the work that you put into producing a good product, training the owner to be able to handle that, going out in public, and respecting the fact that not everybody likes dogs, guys. You are taking a direct privilege to be able to have your dog in these environments, and he needs to know how to have the right demeanor. He should tuck himself under a table. He should be unobtrusive. He should be blending in society where the people don't even know he's really there. Okay, that's a real service dog. And then he should have training that really fulfills a function. Does he hit the lights for you? Does he have to go over and grab articles because you can't bend down and get them? Does he have a harness on him that will support a person's weight because they have an ailment, they can't pick up on the right side or the left side? They need to use the dog for support to get better balance and be able to go through them because they have a little infirmity, right? That's a service dog. Right? And so you guys as a whole, society should respect the fact that there's a lot of work that goes into training a good service dog, that is unobtrusive, that knows how to have good manners and does the right thing, and then fulfills a real service for their owner, okay? And if you don't have a dog like that and you're trying to go out there and because you want the dog to be with you in a restaurant and you want to be, oh, my dog goes everywhere with me, you're full of shit and you shouldn't have that. It's just not right, okay? So I have a lot of anger involved with that because how much work I know goes into producing a good quality service dog and what a service dog trainer does for their owner, right? You should respect that and realize that you are wrong when you try to take your dog into those environments. So that's just enough. I'm done yakking and I don't want to get on a rant, which I did, so I apologize for that. But I definitely have opinions and I have things that make me who I am as a dog trainer. You know, I take a lot of pride in what I do and what I produce. So keep it in mind. I thank you much. You guys have a good day. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, out here trying to wait for it to warm up a little bit. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.